What is API testing?
API testing verifies that an application's interfaces behave correctly in terms of functionality, contracts, performance, security, and error handling.
Why is API testing valuable?
It catches issues below the UI layer, runs faster than end-to-end tests, and provides direct confidence in service behavior.
What is the difference between unit, integration, and API tests?
Unit tests isolate small pieces of logic, integration tests verify components working together, and API tests validate behavior at the service boundary.
What is a contract in API testing?
A contract describes the expected structure and behavior of requests and responses, including fields, types, and status codes.
Why should you test status codes explicitly?
Status codes communicate success, failure, and semantics to clients, so incorrect codes can break integrations even when payloads look reasonable.
What is a happy path API test?
A happy path test verifies the expected success scenario when valid input is provided under normal conditions.
What is a negative API test?
A negative test verifies the API fails correctly when input is invalid, unauthorized, malformed, or otherwise outside the supported path.
Why should API tests validate response shape?
A response can return the right status code but still break clients if required fields are missing or typed incorrectly.
What is idempotency?
An operation is idempotent if repeating the same request produces the same effect as sending it once.
Why is idempotency important for APIs?
Retries happen in real systems, so idempotent endpoints reduce duplicate side effects when clients or networks fail.
What is authentication testing?
Authentication testing checks whether the API properly identifies the caller using credentials like tokens, sessions, or API keys.
What is authorization testing?
Authorization testing checks whether an authenticated caller is allowed to access a resource or perform an action.
Why test rate limiting?
Rate limiting protects systems from abuse and noisy clients, so tests should verify limits are enforced and communicated clearly.
What should a good validation error include?
A good validation error tells the client what field failed, why it failed, and how to fix the request.
Why should API tests cover edge cases?
Edge cases such as empty payloads, large inputs, missing fields, and duplicate requests are common sources of production bugs.
What is schema validation?
Schema validation checks whether a request or response matches an agreed structure such as JSON schema or OpenAPI definitions.
What is data setup and API testing?
Data setup is the creation of predictable preconditions so the test can run reliably and assert meaningful outcomes.
Why are test fixtures useful?
Fixtures provide stable known data, making tests easier to read and less brittle.
What is test isolation?
Test isolation means one test should not depend on the execution order or side effects of another test.
Why mock external services in API tests?
Mocking reduces flakiness, speeds up runs, and makes failure causes clearer when external dependencies are unreliable or expensive.
What is a smoke test for an API?
A smoke test is a lightweight check that core endpoints are reachable and functioning after a deployment.
What is regression testing for an API?
Regression testing ensures previously working behavior still works after code changes.
Why should APIs return meaningful error messages?
Meaningful errors help clients recover quickly and reduce support burden when integrations fail.
What is pagination testing?
Pagination testing verifies page size, cursors or offsets, ordering, and boundary behavior when results span multiple pages.
Why should you test sorting and filtering?
Sorting and filtering often drive user-facing behavior and analytics, and subtle bugs there can produce wrong results without obvious crashes.
What is a test oracle in API testing?
A test oracle is the source of truth used to determine whether the API behaved correctly, such as a schema, database state, or business rule.
What is consumer-driven contract testing?
It is a testing approach where consumers define the API expectations they rely on, and providers verify those expectations continuously.
What is a good post-deploy API check?
Call a few critical endpoints, verify expected status codes and payload keys, and confirm latency stays within an acceptable range.
What is test data management in API testing?
It is the practice of preparing, refreshing, and cleaning up the data conditions tests rely on.
Why should APIs be tested for pagination?
Pagination bugs can hide data, duplicate records, or break clients navigating large result sets.
What is a contract drift problem?
Contract drift happens when the actual API behavior slowly diverges from its documented or expected interface.
Why test content types and headers?
Clients depend on headers like content type, caching, and auth metadata for correct behavior.
What is consumer-driven contract testing?
It validates that a provider continues to satisfy the expectations of specific consuming clients.
Why should API tests include malformed payloads?
Malformed payloads reveal parser weaknesses, validation gaps, and error handling inconsistencies.
What is observability in API testing?
Observability is the ability to inspect logs, metrics, traces, and responses well enough to debug failures quickly.
Why should API performance assertions be realistic?
They should catch regressions without failing simply because environments vary slightly across runs.
What is a flaky API test?
A flaky API test passes and fails unpredictably due to timing, shared state, or unstable dependencies.
Why should retries in tests be used carefully?
Retries can hide real instability if they are used to mask problems instead of diagnosing them.
What is an end-to-end contract check?
It verifies that the full request path, persistence, and downstream effects all match the intended API behavior.
What makes an API test suite valuable long-term?
It stays fast, readable, isolated, and closely tied to the behaviors clients actually depend on.